Welcome back, Bobby. I think we're going to do something a little bit different this time. Rather than talking about personal creativity, let's take a moment aside to talk about the current state of the market. This one's going to be a little bit more dated. You won't be able to watch this, listen to this 3 years from now. You know, it won't be
Well,
current, but
it may be. That's the
actually it
scary
may
part
be.
about this market. Yeah.
Well, the current state of the market is similar to that ancient Chinese curse. May you live in interesting times. We are living in interesting times, my friend.
Yeah, the whole world is interesting right now.
Yes. And but remember, fear is never boring.
And no, it makes good news, don't it?
Oh, it does make good news, but it doesn't make for quick and easy solutions or conclusions. So, where are we right now? Okay. We're still in the first wave of the COVID-19 pandemic, though many people seem to wish to ignore it and wish it to go away, but it has not. But how has that affected the comic book market?
Well, from what we've seen is publishers shut down for what, 2 months, 3 months, I
A
guess,
good two,
almost.
yeah.
Yeah, a good 2 months. Distribution shut down, which really helped out the stores that had to close. And then now it's sort of just slowly feels like a slow train moving out.
Yes, a nice
Uh,
analogy. You can slam the brakes on a train, but you can't get it back up to 120 miles an hour by pushing a button. You got to gather speed, and that's where we are right now. Several publishers told artists, pencils down, stop working. You're not getting paid. We'll get back to you. So those publishers are telling those people, most of them, to get back to work, but they're canceling or delaying other projects. Just not sure how much to put into pipeline all at once.
we do see a lot of shifts and canceling of different books and different things that had been planned. I've noticed, certain titles from the main publishers are no longer going to be published. I guess some of them got moved, and we're just going to do a trade instead of that last one or two issues.
Well, both
Um,
Marvel and DC, Marvel has done it more, but DC has also done it, is the last issue or two issues of a miniseries will go digital only, then collected in a trade. And there's been a lot of complaints about that from people. Like, I've already bought four of this 6 issue miniseries, or four out of five. I don't want to have to buy a trade to get that last issue, and pay
so,
for it.
so publishers are playing both end of the collector's market. They're like, oh, buy our variants, buy our 1 in 1,000s. But by the way, we don't care if you're a completist and you want all 7 issues of a limited series. We're just going to toss in the trade. I'm sorry.
Right, and it's a totally different market. The digital market and the market in comic book stores is completely different.
Oh
There,
yeah,
a lot of people have for years have said, "Oh, it's digital could put comic book stores out of business."
no,
They're just totally separate. I mean,
yep,
they don't really overlap very much. So there are two markets. There's good reason for publishers to publish regular monthly comic books digitally, because the people who buy it don't go into comic book stores, and the people who go into comic book stores don't buy digitally. So to
right.
tell them to go, well, go get that last issue digitally, you'll still get to read it, is not satisfactory to most people.
It seems like there's a separation between the publisher and the print buyers. It's much easier for a publisher to go digital. Let's get real. It
Oh yeah.
cuts out one huge investment on their end, um, going straight digital with it. So of course they'd like to see that market grow. But yeah, slapping collectors in the face like that by not completing a series, not
And
right.
there's an understanding that you can't go from months of shutdown to full production the next as soon as it opens. But right now, Marvel is still publishing comic books every other week. One
Right.
week they put out comic books, the next week graphic novels.
Right.
And that's going to be for another couple of weeks here. And they don't really get into their full production, won't happen until October. I mean, August is most of their books start coming out new again, rather than things that had been let aside from before.
Hmm.
Uh, September they add more, but
Hmm.
there's still a good number of titles that are missing and unaccounted for, where they haven't announced that they're going digital only. They haven't announced that they're canceled. They're just like, keep it looking. We don't know when we're going to bring them back. Many things have been canceled. Their
Right.
their major crossover Empire, several of the miniseries, a good number of them have just been canceled outright. Okay.
Well, I will say something like that. I picked up Was it Zero issue or whatever the preview was that came out this week?
Yeah, Avengers Zero.
Yeah, Avengers. And, I looked through it and I was like, that's interesting. And then I got to that last page. It listed every single, probably not every single crossover that they originally had planned for that. And
Yeah,
I just looked at that and I go, no.
Yeah, the
So
total was 54, if I'm correct. Okay.
It put a negative spin to me as someone like, wow, do I really want to invest all of that into this story? No.
And that's happening more and more. People are getting cynical about the too many, crossovers. Now, I personally...
Did you just call me cynical?
Cynical. So, such a bitter old man you're becoming, okay?
Yes.
But no, I think a lot of people would enjoy the main storyline that they have for Empire. I think it's potentially a very fun superhero crossover story. But when you take something that could be a 6 to 10 issues and make it 54 issues, people just say, I'm not going to get any of them. They know they can't get it all, so they'll get nothing. And there's a middle ground there. But
publishers I know in the past on series like that, they've really pushed, look, you can just read the main series and really enjoy the concept of it. But if you want more, you can expand your reading. And I really haven't seen that with Empire. You know what I mean? I think the publisher wants you to go grab them all. We need to sell all these, so go grab them all. We're not going to tell you you can just read the main title and benefit from it.
Yeah, I do think DC does a better job of structuring. Like when their Death Metal series comes out, I've seen people pick that up who didn't read anything before it and could get a full story.
Yeah, I did.
So they're structured, okay, so that here's this book and this book, they relate, but you don't have to read it all to get the full story. But more importantly, all the major publishers are looking at how much product can the direct market take right now when they're just starting back up. But on the flip side of that, all right, stores are going, I can't make money if I don't have product to sell. Okay,
that's exactly what I was going to say.
Thanks for looking out for me, but okay, my doors are open. I have customers coming in. I have nothing to sell them. Right.
Yeah, and that is a problem. I mean, I stop over at the shop once a week, and it's like, there's nothing here, I will try to grab a back issue or something and try something new, I guess, which I'm hoping some other customers do also.
At our local comic shop, fans have been great because they're buying what new things we have out. But yes, they're also getting graphic novels or back issues and going, this is kind of what my budget generally is, and I want to help out the store because it's a tough time, and things will finally get back to normal. But without those loyal shoppers, okay, rather than buying just the issues that have come out, they're buying other things to help out and keep the store afloat. And if that's not happening throughout the country, But a lot of stores are going to be in trouble because they just don't have the product to sell.
Right.
But I understand where publishers are coming from because publishers work months in advance. They don't, get the luxury of like changing on a dime either. Okay,
That's true.
Right now, if you're an advertising agency, you're working on Christmas. Okay.
Yep.
And at Christmas time, you're working on summer. I mean, you don't have the ability to say, well, this is what's happening right now this summer. I'm going to put it in my summer ads. Those were done 6 months ago. And the same thing for comics. You have to plan well in advance. Okay. And right now, everything's changing so quickly. Publishers are trying to adapt to what is the current state of the market. And it's not easy.
No. I guess they got to be leery of how much money's in the market right now with unemployment and the unknowns and not everybody back to work. So I guess as a publisher, they're saying, well, how much can people really afford? But stores have got to be able to say, we're losing stores. There's more stores shutting down.
And that is a horrible thing for the industry because a lot of people don't understand that if your local comic book store shuts down, some of those people are loyal enough readers that they will find another way. They'll find another store. They'll do mail order, whatever works. But many of them will simply stop collecting.
Yes.
If they go to their store, it becomes a habit. It becomes familiar. And if that store is gone, they're like, I'm just not going to do this anymore.
And if publishers think they're going to move the digital, they're not. If they're not
No,
reading digital to begin with, they're just not going to.
no, it's a good market, but it's a separate market.
Yes.
And it's just not the same thing. And you, I'm not blaming publishers for, for getting it wrong. I understand how quickly they have to adapt to these things, and a quick publisher adaptation still takes a long time, but there's more than that going on. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Well, you talked about, do people really have the money to spend in their local comic shop?
Mm-hmm.
Money is like water. You dam it up here, it's going to still keep flowing. It's going to go
Yes.
somewhere else. And right now, our local comic shop is doing quite well. And the owner there is like, I don't quite understand. I would thought people would be more hesitant, would be holding their wallet tighter. But I think what I tried to explain to him is a lot of things that people would spend their money on right now, summer vacations, trip to the ballpark, okay, to the local amusement park. All these things are not an option, okay?
Movie theaters
Movie
still
theaters,
haven't opened.
okay?
Yes.
Restaurants are somewhat open, but people are not as comfortable in restaurants, especially bars, okay? And there are so many things that you normally might spend your money on where you're like, all right, that family trip got canceled. We're not going to the movies, blah, 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 blah. Bottom line is you have some extra money. Your local comic shop is still open.
Yes.
And like,
And
well, I was going to get 2 of the new action figure set, but heck, I can get all 6. I've got the money.
right. We're seeing the same thing. I own a video game store, as you know, retro video game store. We're seeing the same thing. We're seeing an uptick in sales. And it's like, wow. And we know that's like you guys sell the graphic novels, we sell the consoles, and we're moving more consoles, we're moving more games. It's like people, I hadn't really thought of it until you just said it. People aren't spending money on the vacations. They're not going to the movie theater and eat out once. I mean, you do that once a week. That's a $60, $70 trip just to see a movie out and eat out at a nice, decent restaurant, That's money they're spending in our shops for the entertainment.
Yes.
At a comic shop, they want entertainment, so they're getting the graphic novels, or they're adding to their collection and their toy collection and stuff. And or us, we're seeing it with the video games also.
Also, entertainment dollars of like if you're cooped up in the house way more than we might not be in complete lockdown anymore, but people are spending more time in the house and they're looking for different forms of entertainment. But yes, graphic novels, comics, video games, you can only watch so much television.
Yes. And we're in repeats of it because they quit producing new work. Hadn't really thought of this, but we're seeing a huge uptick in Kickstarter. People, seem to be supporting more and more of the Kickstarter movement, and a lot of the indie publishers have moved over there. I'm getting ready to do our first Kickstarter for a comic book series, and I hadn't really thought of that, but I think they're moving those entertainment dollars over there too, because you get so much more with the Kickstarter. You get, bonus stuff, and there's all kinds of cool merchandising and memorabilia that you can get along with it, and you're directly supporting that creator.
And you're not just getting clicking a button and buying something, having it sent to you. People are involved in a Kickstarter. They keep checking in, okay, and seeing what else is coming along and more behind the scenes stuff. So you get more for your entertainment dollar than you would by just buying most books, okay? You feel like you're part of the creative team, okay?
Yes, that's the ticket for there is getting the supporters to be part of the team, part of the family.
And that's there's 2 factors there too. There's people who are looking for, more entertainment and something that, there's not as much at the comic book store to get. Let me check what Kickstarter's got coming up. But also more people who have had some more time on their hands to do the work to get a Kickstarter going. Okay.
Yes.
People who have I've had this project in the back of my mind, but now, okay, I'm stuck at home. I might as well get to that drawing board and make this happen.
I agree.
Now, if things weren't complicated enough in your local comic book store, DC Comics decides, to throw a monkey wrench into a well-established, but still a monopoly system. Diamond Comics has had virtual monopoly in, if you own a comic book store, you work with Diamond or you don't have a comic book store. They control over 90% of the market.
Yes.
This is supposed to be the United States of America, Bob. How do we let a monopoly happen?
Oh, it's just
I looked at the law. That's not legal.
it's not legal. They just merged and bought up the distributors that they could to take over the market, and it's not a more. I mean, they signed the two biggest as exclusives.
Well,
Um,
in Diamond's defense, they didn't create the situation that turned them into a monopoly. Okay, Marvel Comics way back, okay, decided they were going
mhm.
to cut out the middleman and buy their own distributor.
I know, I loved it.
They
They bought
bought
Heroes World.
they bought Heroes World, which was not at all prepared to be a distributor.
Nope,
They failed at distributing comics, and what I
they did, but boy,
literally failed. Okay,
they did, but boy, did they sell a lot of Blue Line Art products for me. Oh my goodness, that was the best 8 months I think we had in Blue Line.
okay.
I have no clue where they were shipping it to, but they were buying tons of it.
Well, so it wasn't all bad, is what you're saying.
No, no, it was pretty good for us at Blue Line, but
No, but
yeah,
when
it
Marvel
was
went
horrible.
when Marvel went exclusive, like you had to go to them. There were like three major distributors and some minor ones. So when Marvel went exclusive, every store had to deal with their distributor and Marvel.
Yes,
Well, every other company was looking for any port in the storm. So different distributors said, well, if you become exclusive to me, like Marvel is exclusive to Heroes World, then I'll give you these extra benefits. And so different companies started doing this. When DC went exclusive with Diamond, that was the tipping point.
yes,
Other smaller publishers started also going with Diamond to the point that everyone else failed. And then when Marvel failed at its own distribution, they just weren't getting comics to comic book stores. I mean, you could not count on them. So when Marvel, there was only one distributor left for Marvel to go back to, and that was Diamond. Diamond didn't set out to create a monopoly, but they inherited one essentially.
yeah, they jumped on it when it was available.
They did, but
Yes.
okay, they didn't, but it actually went to court and was
Oh,
litigated.
I know.
And the
They've been litigated a
courts,
couple times.
yeah, and the court simply decided the industry's not big enough to care about,
Mm-mm,
which I
it's
don't
not.
understand. I still don't understand that because the industry could be bigger with competition. I mean, this is America, okay? If you don't like your service at one company, you go to their competitor, and people improve their service because you have to compete. Well, the
Right.
comic book industry is distribution wise hasn't had that to deal with in decades.
Okay.
Now, DC finally broke their exclusivity.
Yes.
Shortly after that, they went exclusive to their own distributors, two of them. But
Yes.
if you want DC Comics in your store, you're assigned one of these two distributors. So essentially, DC is its own monopoly now.
Right.
Uh,
It didn't learn from Marvel, did they?
no, I don't know if we'll ever hear the real behind the scenes stories of what my gut instinct is. They wanted to continue with Diamond, but something happened with negotiations with Diamond where things just went bad. We may never know. Okay. But every store has to deal with one of these two distributors now.
Well, I'm hearing AT&T, who is oblivious to what they own with DC Comics, actually put their 2 cents in because they're in financial woes, and sort of pushed to this move more than anything. But yeah, I mean, realistically, are these two guys they picked up any better shape than what Heroes World was back in the day? I'm not seeing it.
We will not know until
Aren't they just mail order businesses?
they're basically mail order businesses
Oh my god.
and to have very large mail order businesses. But okay, they have been distributing on a small scale for several weeks. But July 8th is the real test of like, that's when if you want your DC Comics at a local comic store, it has to come from those distributors.
Right.
And if they're all there and in good shape and on time, we'll see. We just don't know at this point. It's more paperwork for retailers, and
Mm-hmm.
retailers do not like change. They do not
Mm-mm.
like more paperwork.
No.
Even at this point, could this be better for retailers? It could, but we just don't know.
Right.
Could it be a disaster? It could. We just don't know. We're in that waiting period. Okay.
Right.
The ball hasn't dropped yet, so
No.
we don't know what's going to happen.
We might have to come back to this in another month or two
Oh,
and
oh,
see what happens.
definitely, because you have people already taking sides. There are
Oh
people
yeah.
we have stores swearing they will never carry a DC comic again. Well, we heard that when Marvel did his own distribution in the 90s, and
Right.
there's a lot of
Well,
hot air when people get angry about something, but their actions speak louder than words.
I have heard of some stores dropping new issues, but I just don't see it. I mean, what is the weekly draw then? At that point, aren't you just a pop culture store?
If you're dropping your all new issues, there's not a store that's actually making money on that that's going to do it. I
Mm-hmm.
do. There are some stores that sell 3 or 4 issues of a book, okay, and still are considered comic book stores, okay. Well, but they're really making their money from something else.
Right. Yeah. They're selling the toys or the other memorabilia or something else. Yeah.
Right.
Video
Okay.
games. Yeah.
Anyone who's actually making significant part of their profit from selling comic books cannot afford to take one of the big two out of the picture. Okay.
No, I don't see it.
Okay. It's just, as much bluster as, you might have it. People, stores need to serve their customers, and
Right.
customers ultimately don't care who your distributor is. They just want to pick up their new comic books.
Right.
And so there's a lot of anger, a lot of confusion, but we still don't know. Okay, is this actually better for the market? Okay,
Yeah. Yeah. And the market is getting it out to the fans and building readership. That's what we're just talking about.
yeah,
That's because that. Let's get real. Without Marvel DC, there really is no comics.
no,
You
there
know.
are okay. Well, the old-fashioned mall is starting to fade. Okay,
Yes, it is.
but Marvel and DC are your anchor stores in a mall. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
they're the ones that big draw people in, and then you walk through and check all little specialty stores, and but without that big draw, okay, you don't have the people coming in to look at your specialty market, So you
Right.
do need the big two, okay, the way the market is designed right now. Without it, people stop coming in, and your smaller press fades away because they don't get people and they don't get eyes on, okay?
I mean, it would even make it hard for like Dark Horse and Image Comics because
Oh
if they're
yeah.
not coming, if there's not Marvel DC, there's really hard to say there is comic shops. And that's, I mean, I'm going to
Yeah.
piss some indie fans out there off, but you've got to open up your eyes to the whole industry and understand if you're going to make comics, you got to understand that it takes the anchor stores, like you said, to draw in a fan base. And then you hope to be able to show your work to them. Hey, Marvel or Dark Horse and Image, they depend on the same thing.
Well,
Um, those creators that work at Marvel then go to Image with the creator own stuff. They know it's the Marvel works that's drawing them in, and they get to bleed over some of that creatorship. So we need a successful
yeah.
Marvel, and the balance of that is a successful DC.
Yes, and Dark Horse, Image Boom, others that who are their readers? They're people that started with reading Marvel and DC superhero books for the most
Sure.
part, and then decide I want something more creative, something more unique, and they may still, read the superhero books, but they're also reading Image, Dark Horse, other Boom, other titles. But without that initial draw, they would never just have discovered those indie titles.
Right.
But it does the incredible amount of what's the word I'm looking for, dissonance in the market right now does leave, like you said, openings for Kickstarters,
Mm-hmm.
for other alternative methods of delivering product, because people are hungry right now and they're looking for new things, and that gives opportunities for new creators.
Sure. And I guess the market's sort of holding its breath. Okay, we know we're being told it's coming back. So it's not like people are running out and abandoning comics right now. The store, I think Mike at the shop is still seeing people come in on a weekly basis, just wondering
Oh
what
yeah.
did or didn't come in, which is good for our market. The scary thing is if DC fails, how quickly can a Diamond or something like that pick it back up? Because we need a stable market, and the
Well,
stable market isn't that. I mean, comics are such a small industry. It's not like music. It's just not. There's not that big of a fan base.
you talked
So
about stability. If DC fails as its distributors fail them, they can come crawling back to Diamond, and Diamond will take them because they need the money. But what I worry more than anything is is taking DC sales away from Diamond. How stable will Diamond be?
Yes, that's what
If
I was just thinking.
if Diamond fails financially, if they simply, just can't pay the bills anymore, then you have well over 60% of the comic book market with no distributor. Now what happens?
Well,
How
haven't we
how
really?
quickly could we recover? How quickly could we get new distribution for Marvel, Dark Horse, Image, etc.?
Haven't really seen over the past, I'm going to say 10 years, because that's how long I've been out of the comic retail business. They've really consolidated as far as the way they used to have warehouses on every major market, and they don't really do that anymore. They have some major warehouses, but not nearly as many as they used to have back in the day.
Hmm.
So it feels like to me they've already downsized. Of course, then was cost cutting, less people, less employees, less rent, less warehouses. But I would think that Diamond should be able to shelter something like this long enough to either modify its business mode to hint that this will be profitable, or be here long enough to DC. I can tell you, as we saw with Marvel, it fails. It fails quickly
That
because
is true.
comic shops will let you know when you let somebody else have their books and they don't have their books. They're gonna let you know very quickly you've dropped the ball. You know,
Yes.
and so yeah, it's gonna happen. I say within a year we'll see whether they can get these two distributors up and distribute. And another thing we talk about is, are these guys going to distribute other titles? So um, they're biting off having to handle DC, or there's a lot of other
Well,
publishers going to start chasing them. They're going to say yay or nay. I want to almost say the smart thing would be say nay right now. Say better figure out how to handle DC.
I think every other smaller publisher, let's say that you're not one of the very small publishers who's not exclusive to Diamond, you got to be looking at like, well, if they can handle DC, will it actually expand my market for them to handle me too?
We've had a discussion at Blue Line about reaching out to them.
But everyone right now, you say it's a collective. The industry is holding its breath.
Mm-hmm.
Retailers, they're all holding their breath, waiting to find out what happens. And yeah, it's interesting, but it's a shaky enough time. Perhaps this is the only time that DC could possibly have done something like this.
Yeah, I don't know how the contracts was written, but evidently there's something out there when they ceased distribution that broke their contract, or maybe it was just up. I don't know. I don't know how long their contract was ran for, but my biggest thing with Blue Line, and we've had a couple conversations about it, is that if they take us on and distribute our work, and it's a 30-day pay, can they really pay? I've had that with distributors in the past, smaller distributors. And at this point, Blue Line couldn't handle a non-pay distributor. I mean, its market's too small. So
That's
it's like,
something
we're
that
going to
people,
wait and see. Mm-hmm.
something that people don't realize. What led to Diamond eventually becoming the sole distributor? There are a lot of smaller distributors that were just not paying their bills.
Yes.
There
Well,
were,
Diamond offered quick pays too. I think it's a 15-day pay. It was a percentage you gave up. It wasn't much. It was very little. But there's many times we jumped on it and says, yeah, kick us a check now. Don't wait 30 days. Uh, so,
what started that? There were a lot of fly-by-night shops that were barely making a
mm-hmm.
living, so they couldn't pay their distributor. Well, then they couldn't pay distributor A, so they contracted with distributor B and started receiving product that they couldn't pay for. And
Right.
then distributor B said we need our money or no more books. Well, they went to distributor C. So you're forming this debt of distributors who are not getting paid for the books, and then they can't pay the publishers.
Right.
And this is what led to such an unstable market. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
that a lot of smaller distributors went out of business, and then it went to like a big three, and then eventually just to the one, which it stabilized because you couldn't, if you weren't paying Diamond, you weren't getting your books. Okay.
Right.
So you couldn't, that was it. Okay. There was no one else to go to not pay, So there is some validity in that. Okay. But is that enough to really recommend saying we should have only one distributor, a complete monopoly?
I guess we'll see.
We'll see. Stay
Yes.
tuned. Okay.
Yes.
It's like a soap opera, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Yes. As the
We
comic books turn.
okay. We've got drama. We've got scandal. Okay.
Oh yeah. And we have Kickstarters. Woohoo!
We have Kickstarters, and we
Yeah.
have, but as in any time of chaos, in chaos there is opportunity. So
Yes.
there's opportunity not just for the big boys right now, but there's opportunity for small creators. Okay. Now, there are some creators who are professional creators who work is on hold so much they need something else to do.
Uh-huh.
But there are ways to, there is a pent up demand right now that if you can move faster than a big publisher and get your work out there through Kickstarters, online, and other fashion, other creative ways, there's a unique opportunity for young upstart creators.
And then there's guys like who would I mean if you were doing a series at like Image or something like that, this would be a great time to go ahead and get a ton of work done and actually, either start the next series or get stuff delivered on time or even early. Yeah, this would have been a good opportunity to take advantage. The problem is you got to pay the bill. They had to pay the bills too. I mean, I got hit up by a few creators looking for some sidekicks, cover work and stuff like that. Just
Because they still have the rent to pay.
yes, they did.
Okay. So, Bob, I think that about wraps up our time for today because we're not going to solve any of these major issues in the market.
No.
Just the two of us. Now, we need to bring a third person in before we do that, I think.
Yeah, maybe we can call in some buddies at Diamond or somewhere
Yeah.
down the road.
Yeah. And they'll tell us all the industry secrets. Okay.
Yes, no, I don't think so.
I don't. I don't think they really quite know where things are going at the moment either. So I think everyone is like holding their breath, holding on, and saying, we can get through this. There's a lot of that going
Yes,
around right now.
a whole lot.
We'll get through this together, Bobby.
Oh, yes. Comics will be stronger and
Okay.
continue to grow.
Yeah. I'll talk to you again soon. Thanks so
Take
much.
care, Bill.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.